Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Knoll, and welcome back to our discussion show, Battleground Casual. My name is Aaron Knoll. I am normally the host and producer behind movie Battleground, but today we are not debating movies. We're just here discussing them. I am joined, as always, by my cohort here on the channel, Mr. Matt Beer. Matt, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. Not in my normal spot when I record, but I have to watch some dogs. That way they don't have feces go everywhere. So that is why I'm up here.
That would be a good reason uh, to be upstairs watching your dogs. So we're going to go ahead and jump in, guys. As the title says, we are going to be doing spoiler discussions on Creed 3 and Scream 6. I have three fans of the franchises backstage to join us on screen on screen to discuss these in just a little bit. But before we get into it, I did want to bring up a topic at the start here because yesterday an actor who is one of those guys who most people know his face. They've seen him in a lot of things, but I don't think a lot of people really knew the name or the career or that type of thing. Lance Reddick passed away, who, of course, was a major part of the John Wick franchise, which is going to have its next entry coming up in the next couple of weeks here. And so I have a little here. So actor Lance Reddick suddenly passed away on Friday morning. Due to what's being said as of now, natural causes. It seems like it may have been some sort of health predicament. As of now, there's no intention of any kind of drug impact or suicide. It just seems like it was health related. Reddick, whose career spans nearly 30 years, was best known for his television work, from early major recurring roles on shows like Oz, Lost, and multiple different Law and Order series, to leading work on top dramas like The Wire, Fringe, and Bosch. He also developed an interest in voice work in recent years, having had recurring roles on the likes of Rick and Morty, the DuckTales reboot, and Amazon's The Legend of Vox Machina. I don't know how that's said. As well as extensive work with Netflix's animated shows, including Castlevania, Paradise PD, and most recently, the leading role in the show Farzar. In film, Reddick was best known for his role as Sharon, Karen. I don't know how the fuck you'd say that. Why are there so many things I can't say here? In the John Wick series, he is the concierge of the Continental and often an ally to Wick in these films, with his role progressing as the films went along. He also played a big role for video game fans in the Destiny franchise, voicing the character Commander Zavala, a leading character in both games, as well as the series' extensive DLC. Reddick is survived by his wife, Stephanie Day, and their three children. His career for the moment is far from over, though, as he had multiple films and projects now set for posthumous release. He'll, of course, reprise his role in the John Wick series in John Wick Chapter 4 in a couple of weeks, and he will also be appearing in the franchise spin-off Ballerina either later this year or early next year, which stars Ana de Armas, which he had just completed a production on very recently. He'll also have roles in the upcoming remake of White Men Can't Jump and as Zeus in the first season of the Percy Jackson series coming in 2024. He also has more voice work roles coming up, including voicing the character Hellboy in the upcoming video game Hellboy: Web of Weird. Reddick was 60 at the time of his passing. So Matt, I'll jump over to you. Obviously, John Wick is the biggest thing that people have a lot of exposure to, but are there any of these other shows or anything that stood out to you that he was a part of?
Yeah, obviously The Wire is one that's going to stick out to a lot of people. One of the greatest shows that's ever won on television. I'm going to step away from my dog because he's going to start barking, and that would be very disrespectful. But no, he was in The Wire, and I really liked him in The Wire. It's nice to know that there's going to be a bunch of stuff coming out as the year and I guess what the next 2 years go on because
Yeah, because
some of that coming out
it's
24 too.
already been confirmed that Percy Jackson won't air till 2024. They've only just completed production, and there'll probably be some reshoots as well. So yeah.
Okay, so I mean it's nice that we're going to get to see him more, but yeah, this was something I did not expect. There's some celebrities where you kind of have a feeling that they could be leaving any day now, but with him, he was like 60 years old. Like that's way too young. Like I don't think anybody expected anything
Right.
like this to happen. So yeah, I mean it's heartbreaking. Obviously, next week we got John Wick to see him on the big screen with, and I love him in those movies. I really do. I think he's great. And then him being in Ballerina, I think is gonna be really good too. But yeah, he's definitely gonna be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was looking through like his filmography, both film and television,
Hmm.
uh, one that stood out because it's one of those like it stands out to me as an example of studio meddling in the weirdest ways.
Yeah.
People may not realize that he was in Godzilla versus Kong outside of the fact that he has a leading star billing in the film for only being in one scene. He filmed a role for that movie that was mostly connected to a Kyle Chandler subplot, most of which got
Mhm.
cut from the final film. And all that's left is it's similar to like Rogue and X-Men a few years ago, where he's in like
Yeah.
one or two scenes in the background and that's it.
Yeah.
But then he gets lead billing by the end of the film. And then the other one is something that I was a fan of is the DuckTales reboot, which I did not
Mhm.
know the character that he voices was like a recurring villain character within the show, and I was not
Yeah.
aware that he voiced the character until I read it, and then immediately I went, "How did I not recognize his voice?" Because he has a very distinctive voice, like he does kind of stand out in that way.
Yeah.
But that show is weirdly excellent, and it's one of two reboots of Disney animated shows from the '90s that worked. If we're also counting the Chippendale movie,
Yeah.
uh, so it's just weird. But yeah, he was a great actor.
Yeah.
Like you said, probably the first thing I became familiar with him from was the John Wick films, just because things like Oz and The Wire are a little before my time. But he's
Mhm.
an excellent character in those. Like I remember one of the most hyped moments in that third film, which to me is the best of them so far, was not any of the individual action sequences, just the fact that he picked up a gun and got in on the action. It's just like, yeah, we're finally doing something with this character. Because he's
Yeah.
just been so cool through all these movies, but now he's actually getting action, which is a lot of fun.
Right.
And of course, yeah, for people who are fans of his extensive television work, for people who are fans of those films, some of that stuff is like very cult stuff. Chris mentioned in the private chat as well that he was a part of the Horizon series of games in terms of voice
Yes.
acting. He's also, for fans of Destiny, because certainly they're diehard. And I mean, yeah, like coming up joining Percy Jackson, which unfortunately, it'll only be one season, at most probably 2 episodes worth of work. But the fact that he was like cast as Zeus and like, if his unfortunate passing hadn't happened, would have had a big, a role in that show for the foreseeable future, is
Mhm.
certainly something that'll be missed.
And also, and you can find it on Twitter too. He did a whole skit on the Eric Andre show, where he went in and was being interviewed. It's really good. So if you guys want to watch something that's going to make you laugh, go on Twitter. You should find it pretty quick. There's a part of the Eric Andre show or whatever when he's just doing his normal interviews. Because they did the same thing with Seth Rogen where they actually leaked his number on there. They just put it on screen. He popped up on there, had a funny segment with that. So if you guys want to have a laugh, then that's something I would highly recommend checking out because it's really funny.
Absolutely. And so with that, we do say, of course, plenty more work from him to come. But we do say a unfortunate rest in peace to Mr. Lance Reddick. Hope whatever it was that was ailing you, you are resting well, sir. And yeah, this to me was like when I read this, it's a stark reminder of just how sudden life can be. Because like, I mean,
Yeah,
he would have just recorded like the promo and press that they're releasing for John Wick 4 because it's coming out like
yeah,
right now. So it's very it reminds you of how sudden life can be.
yeah.
This is a horrible way to transition from a topic like that, but this is how my brain works. Another thing that reminds you of how sudden life can be is the Scream films, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people die in them. So
Yeah,
we're gonna go ahead and jump
that's
into
something.
yeah, we're gonna go ahead and jump. I'm not proud of that one. We're gonna jump into Scream 6 here, and for the moment at least, we are gonna say goodbye to Matt, who has not seen the film, so he's gonna check out for the next little bit. He will join us back in for the Creed 3 spoiler. I'll see you in a little bit, sir.
All right, see you all in a bit.
But I am not alone for this. I do have some fans in the background coming in. First off, we have a man who begged to be here, both in the actual post on the Facebook page and then immediately after in my DMs. It was the quickest slide in the morning. No, Mr. Chad Webb is here. Chad, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Uh,
had to be here. If you're talking Scream, why not, right?
Also joining us, I'm presuming, a fellow horror fan, Stacy is here.
Hello. Yeah, I like horror. Some of it. I like Scream.
And of course, if you're talking movies, he'll find his way in somehow. Mr. Chris Diaz is here. Chris, welcome.
Thank you. I'm kind of happy to talk about Scream. Love this franchise.
Absolutely. So to do my awkwardly transition right into the film, the second of 4 Yes, 4 total sequels being released in the month of March this year. Scream 6 serves as a direct follow-up to the previous film, which served as a sort of reboot of the series. Sort of, kind of. What was the term they used? Requel? Was that what they
Requel.
kept calling it?
Requel.
Yeah. Survivors Sam, Tara, Mindy, and Chad have left Woodsboro behind for the big city to try and move on from their past. But when Ghostface returns for some good old-fashioned revenge, the group must team up with fellow survivors, new allies, and of course, a lot of people you can't trust. The film sees the return of previous franchise stars Courtney Cox, Hayden Panettiere, and of course, the classic voice of Ghostface, Roger L. Jackson, in return to Scream 5 debutants Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Jasmine Savoy Brown, and Mason Gooding. As is the norm, the series also adds an extensive cast of newcomers, led in screen time at least by Dermot Mulroney, Jack Champion, Devin Nakota, and Josh Shigara. The directing duo of Radio Silence and writers James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick also return. Like our other film we'll be discussing tonight, Scream 6 was a bona fide box office and critical hit. It received a 77% approval rating from critics and a whopping 92% approval rating from audiences. The movie also earned its highest opening weekend of the franchise, grossing $44.4 million. To date, it's also grossed $83.2 million worldwide and currently sits in 5th place within the franchise. But based on how much it's grossed, it is on track to potentially become the all-time record-grossing film for the franchise, breaking the $103 million that the original film still holds as the record. Which that might be the craziest part. This franchise made it to 6 films without any of them beating the gross of the original. That's probably the craziest part of all of this, that movie's still the highest grossing one. So I'm going to jump into this first because of everyone here. I'll probably have the least to say about the movie, just because I'm not a diehard horror fan in any way. Most people know I don't often watch horror films when they come out. The only reason I've seen this movie is because I got to go to a private screening of it that a buddy had set up for employees at a theater. No one showed up, so he was like, yo, you want to come watch this movie? So I showed up and watched it. And I had a lot of fun with this one. I liked Scream 5. I think I've seen all of these movies. I at least have seen most of them once, at the very least, and I've liked all of them that I have seen. I'm going to be honest, any of the older ones I would have seen, it was a few years ago, so the memory's not the best on them. But I remember liking them, and I liked 5 last year. And I like this movie just a little bit more. I think the biggest step up that this film takes is I think Vanderbilt and Busick do a better job with the script. I think the characters, for starters, are much more interesting. Both the characters that were brought over from the previous film, of the 4 characters they kept, I honestly only thought Jenna Ortega was the only one decently written. The others were all very kind of one note for me in the 5th one, and I think they do a much better job at writing them this time around. And I think the new characters are more intriguing than the long list of characters they brought into the 5th one. I think that these both, I'd say a mix of the performances and the writing for the characters, they're just much more interesting this time around. I often found myself with the 5th one not caring which characters were killed or kept because you don't really get to know any of them all that well, whereas it feels like this movie does a better job of fleshing them out. I think, again, following the 5th one being sort of a change for the opening of this series, which is like a staple of it, I think the opening in this film's excellent. Again, with them sort of subverting the expectation of what you expect to come from these. And I like the fact that, at least to me, it felt like the meta of this franchise was sort of reduced a little bit, at least the most that it's been in a while in this movie. It felt like they were kind of taking a more straightforward approach with how they were doing it while not leaving it behind fully, and I appreciated that. I like the brutalness of it. I think, again, that's kind of a nice fresh change. Really the biggest issue I'd have is I think you can kind of see who the killer is coming a mile away. I think it is a little obvious. But that's not a bad thing because this isn't a whodunit necessarily. It's a horror film. And in my opinion, if the twist is good, it's a bonus. But it's probably the weakest aspect of this film, in my opinion. But overall, like, I gave it out of 10, I gave it an 8. I do think it's a really, really enjoyable film. And I think especially if you're a horror fan or if you're a Scream fan, I think you'll probably enjoy this film even more than I did. Speaking of, let's jump to the man who's literally wearing it on his chest. Chad, what were your thoughts on this film?
Yeah, this one is actually really interesting because when I first saw the trailer, I didn't know really what to think. I thought it might be really, really bad just because from the trailer, it just looked like they were going into an entirely different direction. And I was just like, this trailer does not feel Scream to me. And it was because the 5th movie didn't feel, I don't want to say 100% Scream. I don't think that's really fair to, for newcomers to come in and have to make it exactly like a Wes Craven film or anything like that. But it just felt very lacking. And then this one, I felt like Radio Silence actually really found they really like set in with this one. Whereas in the fifth, they were trying to make a Scream film, and to me, they were a little lacking with this one. It was like they finally clicked. You know, like when you're assembling something and it clicks, you got that click here. And you know, the biggest thing that I think that this one does really, really well is it takes the entire franchise and basically harkens back to everything in the franchise and really kind of makes some movies that not a lot of people love, like Scream 3, a little bit better while commenting on those films and stuff like that. So yeah, I really dug this one. I thought it was very, very fun. And you were 100% on the money here when you said that all of the new characters felt better and more fleshed out in this one, including especially Melissa Barrera's character, Sam Carpenter, because in 5, I was kind of like, why do we need her? We could just have Jenna Ortega right now. She could be the Sydney of the new Sydney or whatever. But then I love their dynamic in this new one, and I love how badass Sam ended up being. And so, yeah, she really worked for me in this one, and all the other characters as well were well done for sure.
Absolutely. Stacey?
So I actually didn't see the killers coming. I did in 5, and I didn't in 6. And
I didn't either.
Everyone is saying it's more predictable, but they really got me with the roommate death. Like, I fell for that, and because I fell for that, I didn't think that her dad was the killer. So yeah, they really tricked me this time. But sorry, I'm tired. I liked it a lot.
No, you're good.
I forgot what I was gonna say. I knew it when Chad was talking.
I'm sure we'll go back around.
So I can remember.
Oh yeah, you'll get.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the with the killer. And I forget the exact line. Here's where I say that they did get me. And I guess we're going spoiler, so I'll just straight up say it.
Mm-hmm.
Dermot Mulroney was the one that I did figure out because there's a line that he says somewhere in the film, and I forget the full line, but he says kids, as in more than one when you've only met one. And in my head, I kind of thought, oh, is he maybe tied to one of the two from the previous film? Like, that's just kind of where my head went. So when they revealed that wasn't shocking to me. Because you're right, I do think they sell the character's death well, and I didn't see the Jack Champion aspect of it coming at all. The fact that there was another
That's the
one
obvious one.
Yeah, but there was 3.
Yeah, that one I didn't see coming either. But it was for some reason just that line of like him saying he's lost more than one kid, like that clicked something in my head where I was like, oh, is he connected to one of the others? Because the big theory going into this, and I'll let you guys tackle this as well because you're more fans of the franchise than I am, is a lot of people wanted it to be connected to Stu. And to me, at least, as someone who's not a mega fan, that never made sense because if Sydney were here and this were like a proper sequel to the others, that'd make a bit more sense. But he has no connection to any of these characters. Like the closest he came was, didn't they say that one of the guys killed in the 5th one was related to him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
His nephew, Vince. Yeah.
Right.
The guy that did attack at the bar.
Outside of that character, none of these characters have anything to do with him. So if it would have been him, it would have just felt like now we're dragging nostalgia in for nostalgia's sake.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that it was connected to the 5th one directly. Like, to me, that was a move that made a lot of sense. Did you have what you wanted to say, Stacey? Go back to you before I go to Chris.
So I really loved the whole thing with the killer's lair and him being in the super fan aspect of that. I thought was real fun. I thought it was real fun how we saw some of the older kills recreated a little bit because of the props and everything in there. And I really liked how they had I forget her name. The main character. Not Jenna Ortega, her sister.
Melissa Barrera.
Yes, I really liked how they had her dealing with the trauma because you don't see that enough that in horror movies that people survive these horrific events. And in the sequel, they're just going on with life again. And I liked that they showed her having a big effect on her in their relationship and that she was trying to deal with that in some way.
Yeah, it feels like the most 21st century like millennial edition you can make to a horror franchise is to bring in a therapist. It really
Right.
does feel, but in the best way possible. Like you're right. It makes a lot of sense actually that
You would need
No,
a therapist.
Great actor playing the
these high
therapist.
schoolers would be fucked up from what they went through previously. They
You
wouldn't
need a
just be moved
team
on
of
properly.
therapists.
Like especially when you compare it to most franchises, because like I think you could argue a little bit with the characters from Scream, and I feel like the archetype for it is Laurie from Halloween. Like the reaction to going through that experience is just become this hardened, like, oh, I fucking know how to deal with this. Like that's
Right.
the approach that a lot of franchises take. So it is different. Chris, I'll go to you.
I love this movie a lot. I have small issues here and there with some stuff. Why Ghostface attacking people in broad daylight where anybody could see him. Like in the last one and this one, they do it a little unrealistically. Like, whether with Judy House in the last one, the therapist, going to the therapist's house and stabbing him. But I love this movie. I kind of saw Jack Champion reveal coming a mile away. That's because, it's him just showing up randomly and such. I thought that was kind of the obvious hit. I didn't see Quinn coming, even though I think that also, and much I love the film, I think, well, just why the realistic, why that a little bit hard to believe that because when you see her body come out the door. I talked with Jordan Owen the other day. I thought her throat was slit because I noticed there was blood. So I'm like, okay, how do you make that fake looking enough to make them believe that she was dead enough? Like, but I love this movie. I think Sam is great. Dana Taker's great. The big improvement for me were Minnie and Chad. I liked them in number 5, but I loved them more in there. I love Chad's relationship with Jenna Taker. I like their
Yes.
little
Yeah.
romance.
It's adorable.
Chad was
it's
much
cute and funny.
better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick up on that. Going to the way that I've kind of done these discussions previously is I'll try and bring up topics to sort of just kind of fuel you guys for a little bit. And I'll jump to those characters because that I feel like was one of the biggest criticisms of the fifth one is just the characters in general. I feel like a lot of people did not connect to these characters as much. There was a lot of complaints about specifically the ones they kept. A lot of people weren't huge fans of Mindy and Chad. There was complaints of them feeling a little derivative, especially Mindy feeling, I mean, she's literally related to, but it kind of felt like a direct substitute for the Randy character from the older films. And then a lot of people didn't connect to Melissa Barrera's character and Sam, the way that it was written, maybe some of it her performance. And I feel like all around in this movie, all of them take a step up. Maybe the least so Jenna Ortega, just because she felt like a better fleshed out character anyways in the first one. So for her, it's just at the same level. But I definitely feel like the three of them, especially because they're all good actors, like take a step up. Like before I ever saw him in Scream, Mason Gooding was in, for anyone who saw Love, Simon a few years ago in theaters, there was a spin-off show called Love, Victor. And Mason Gooding is one of the leading characters in that show.
Really
And I think he's one of the better actors in that cast. Like I always thought he gave a good, like in what is essentially a Hulu teen drama, I thought he gave a legitimately good performance as one of the more complex characters because he starts off as sort of an antagonist and you definitely see a change in the character over the show. So in the fifth one, it did sort of feel like I know there's potential for this to get better because I've seen him do better than this. And I feel like they definitely tapped into it. And a lot of it is the writing. I think the writers figured out the characters a bit more and sort of made them work. So I'll start, whoever wants to pick up from there. What were your guys' thoughts on the characters and sort of the evolution from one to the other?
Yeah, I'll jump in there real quick. For Mindy and Chad specifically, because it's kind of weird since they killed off Randy. They did the video in Scream 3. They had the film cinema club in 4, but in 5 it's like they took Randy and they split him in 2, and they're like, because they're both related to Randy. They're both
twins.
They're twins.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the two different kind of archetypes that make up a full Randy, whereas like one knows all the rules and then one kind of internalizes the rules. Like Mindy's kind of dumb a little bit, like the way she's on the couch doing the same Randy shit, like stuff behind her, and she doesn't know what the hell's going on. But then with Chad, like he's internalizing the whole, actually maybe we don't have sex, maybe this is not a good idea. Maybe you're going to be the killer. So since they're both kind of like a split apart Randy, I feel like, they took them exactly what you said in Scream 6 and just started to, they gave Chad a relationship. They made him like this very protective character over Jen Ortega.
They
And,
gave them both a relationship, technically.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's really, yes. That's another thing I wanted to touch on. But they made him kind of like a really great, like fighting guy, which like his fight scenes are pretty incredible. And then with Mindy and her relationship, that was one of the most heartbreaking things as well. When her love interest dies, which is a very brutal thing.
From my theater into my
and I didn't want to see that happen because I was like, no, I actually kind of care about this relationship. Please don't kill it. And then right after that, like Mindy just started hitting really hard with the internalizing the stuff and being like, stay away from me. You're fucking Ghostface. I'm going over here. And I felt her fear, like that whole sequence with her on the train. I was just like, okay, please do not kill Mindy right here. And I'm glad that they didn't because I love her.
Yeah. I love all four of the lead.
Core four.
Yeah. Like I thought Melissa Barrera would done so much better in this. I like her evolution. I love they kind of leave it open at the end,
I want her to be the killer in the next one.
Yes.
Yeah. But maybe
can I just interject here real quick, Chris, and then I'll let you go on. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Chris,
that's my fault.
Over on my show that I do with my wife and Hunter Chambliss, we actually had like a big disagreement where neither of them wanted to see Sam be the killer because she's actually like an interesting character that people love now, and they don't want to see that. And I'm like, that's exactly why they should do it because they build her up to make you like her, and then they break your heart.
And they have all that stuff with Billy. Like they make you doubt that she's like they put that seed there that she could turn because of the stuff.
The cool thing about that is because you can interpret the ending in really different ways because the way she has the mask and then you're like, oh, Sam, like I knew that was how it was going to end, but then she drops it and then you're just kind of like, wait, does that mean that she dropped it? Like, no, I deny you, Dad.
That's how I took it.
Or is it that because all of the killers have been leaving their masks at the crime scene? Is she doing that as a calling card?
That's a good point. I took it as she was like rejecting that whole thing. But anyway, sorry, Chris.
Find out 14 months from them when they pump out the next one.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I hope they kind of have a little bit of a gap, but I don't think they will. Because that was how Scream 3 was like 3 years after the second one. So I don't know. But
I thought she was fantastic. Jen Ortega is always wherever she pop up, really good stuff. She had probably my favorite kill in the movie when she stabbed the killer in the mouth with the knife. She's like, you did die a virgin. Like that.
Just know. You died a virgin.
Yeah. Even though I love the other killer stabbing the eye that moment, like you fuck with my family.
And the viciousness of Sam at that end, like she was vicious as hell when she killed Richie.
Yeah.
But then killing Richie's dad, I was like, holy shit.
But that's because she kind of likes it.
Comes out of the woodwork.
Kind of likes killing. That's what you even talk to the therapist about. That's what I'm saying. She needs to be the killer next time.
I get him because I do question it after the movie. I get Richie never mentioned his family when he was dating Sam. Like that, or like
not in the movie.
Yeah, that we know of. That were
well, I mean, she might have to him, but like when they were working at the bowling alley or something like that. But not that we saw on screen.
Yeah, for like, okay, taking all the unrealistic aspect out of the movie, it's fantastic. All of the foot code for it are fantastic. Mindy, I love Chad. I hope they keep them going. I hope they don't kill them off like Randy in the second one and just do something dumb. And they did. And I will say quickly, and much I love the Gale stuff. If you didn't kill off a legacy carrier, go ahead. Like, the whole fake out, she survived. A stab to the abdomen, pretty hardcore.
I was gonna throw in, and I'll throw it to Stacy first as well, because if you want to comment on the other characters, but then I was gonna jump to, because realistically with Scream, the characters do make up a lot of the opinions about these films, and so I'll go to Stacy as well, and you can talk about just kind of all of it in general. But you had for the first time, it really does feel like the franchise is sort of taking a step away from, at least in terms of physical presence in the film, the legacy characters. Obviously, the film does play a lot into the legacy of the franchise as a whole. But whereas in the last one, you had the 3 characters come back, plus you had Hicks from the 4th film, plus you had Randy's sister have a small role. Here you have Hayden Panettiere return, who does have a decent-sized role. But other than that, Courtney Cox is essentially a glorified cameo. And that's pretty much it. That's all the connection that they have outside of references to other characters. And really, there is a lot of newer cast members in this, because obviously you have 3 killers. You then have the love interest for Mindy's character, who's taken out. Which can I say, weirdest thing ever. I had never seen this actress before this film who portrays her. Her name's Devin Nakota. I'd never seen her in anything before I saw this film. And I swear, shit you not, the same week I watched on Disney Plus a movie called Sneakerella, because I thought it'd be funny to say that I had seen this movie last week when we brought it up, the 2022 films, and she's the fucking co-lead in this movie. So I went from having never seen this girl before to seeing her in 2 very different fucking films. Although, don't be alarmed if you're a fan of her on screen. She is also a lesbian in the Disney Cinderella musical. So don't be worried. She gets mixed with that.
Nice.
That's who she is. I'm really thinking for a moment, like.
So there's that. But also, like, for anyone who's a fan of Arrow, or like the one person who was a fan of She-Hulk, Josh Segarra's in this from those shows.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of new characters that were added. So I'll go to Stacy first. What are your thoughts on? Obviously, you talk about the characters from that were brought back if you want as well, but like both a mix of the new characters and the legacy characters. What stood out to you, good or bad?
Yeah, so I was real nervous about this one. Like, I wasn't totally sure I was gonna go opening weekend, and I've seen all of them opening weekend. Actually, I think I saw all of the other ones opening night, and I saw this one on the Saturday. But because of the lack of Sydney, I was real nervous about No Nev Campbell. One of the things I love about the Scream franchise is that we've had that consistency throughout, which is so rare in a horror franchise. I didn't miss her at all. Like, I mean, she was kind of, they talk about her. She kind of still has a presence. I didn't miss her being there. And I was fine if Gail was dead. Like, I love them. I love seeing them pop up. And I'm like, oh, it's that one. Like, you know, they're been since 1996. I think I've been watching these characters. So obviously they have a special place. But story-wise and stakes-wise, because I'm the person that says kill off the main character, have the balls to do it, just break my heart. Like, I like that shit. So I'm fine with them killing the legacy characters. I liked Mindy in 5. I mean, I like her more in 6, but I liked her in 5 because I like the Randy surrogate. I like the person telling the rules. I like the meta-ness of it. That's why I like Scream. So yeah, maybe she's derivative, but at the same point, if you're not there for that, what are you there for? I mean, I guess for the kills. I'm not there for the kills, actually. The kills, they could cut away from the kills and I wouldn't care. I'm there for the story.
That's a way to make more money.
Right? I'm there for the meta commentary and the story.
Oh, no.
Can I say,
No, go ahead.
I mean, if they go for it, I'd be okay with it. I kind of ship Kirby and Mindy a little bit just based on that one scene alone where they just talk about the remake, like, you know, their hard trivia back and forth. And I thought that was cute.
They had some chemistry. They did. Jasmine Savoy Brown and Hayden Panettiere. They had some chemistry. I could see that.
That's one of my favorite smaller scenes from the movie. I love that scene. And
I do love the Chad Tara hookup. Like, I think that was great. I think it was great that they kept trying and kept getting, like, not so much interrupted, but never really got started because of everything going on until towards the end. I was real sad when I actually thought he was dead because they just, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't I don't usually try to figure out what's happening. It just happens in my brain. And this one, I was just like, they got me with everything. Oh, and I love the beginning. I love the beginning.
Yeah.
With Tony Revolori and that whole
And Samara
situation.
Poor Samara Weaving.
Huh? And Samara Weaving. Yes, but I mean, I love the Samara Weaving thing. Like, that's what you expect, right? You expect that she gets the call. And yes, it's in a public place, so it's different. But
I had a feeling, I didn't know what Revolori's role would be because they did put him in the trailers. They used the minimal footage they had and tried to intersperse him in the trailers. But Samara Weaving was nowhere to be found in any of these trailers. And so for an actress of that size, that screamed to me, okay, she's the one they're going to kill at the start. If they have so little footage of her that they're not using her, she's the one that dies.
And that was, I think you were supposed to know that. I think, first of all, like, if it's not opening with a death, or I guess Jenna Ortega didn't die in 5, but you think she did for a hot second.
Can we say, based on where her career's gone, how big of a financial blunder would that have been if they had killed her?
Oh, it would have been awful. It would have been awful. And she's great. She can act too. So, but the whole thing with them being like super fans and kind of copycat killer type of thing, trying to finish the movie, I thought that was great. Yeah. And then they get taken out.
Yeah, one of my favorite gruesome kill is when she opens the refrigerator and you don't even see the kill happen. You just see the result of the dead body there. I'm like, oh my god.
Part.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chad, I'll jump up to you then. What were your thoughts on the other characters that were added, be it the new ones or the legacy ones? Are there any that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of like mirror. I mean, I love the 3 killers. We're talking about the killers. We already mentioned who they all are. I was like completely shocked when I found out that, like, because I forgot who Jack Champion was, and then I was like, wait, that's Spider from Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like seeing that, I was like, because the whole time I was like, I know that his face from somewhere.
You're walking about 6 years of growth in an actor in 3,
right?
Yep. Much better acting in Dead than in Avatar Way of Water.
It was very Avatar was very Boyhood in a way, but yeah. No, I loved him. I loved all the killers. I loved that it was a family. I loved that it was Richie's family. There's a moment, and it might be the same moment that Aaron was mentioning earlier, when he gets kicked off the case or whatever, and then he like overacts for a second there, and he's like, I gotta kill them because they.
That's what it is. Yes, yeah.
I'm like, what? I'm like, is that like? Is he overacting on purpose there? Like, what's that? But I didn't think he might be the killer. But then, like, towards the end there, like, he was very, like a lot of different, like, Scream killers. And one is like, kind of Stu Macher in a way, just so over the top. Mrs. Loomis, because he's the parent of someone who died.
I loved that because it's the sequel to the requel, and it mirrored
it's mirroring the previous.
So I loved that. Sorry,
they did it. Try to kill each other.
And I was going to say, like, because one of the criticisms I have seen is that people have complained. Specifically, I've seen it. People complain about it with Dermot Mulroney and Jack Champion of the overacting once the killer reveal's done. I feel like that's just what the franchise does. Because I'd argue that Jack Quaid very much overacts when he's revealed in that one.
Yeah.
And even the way that they
Mikey Madison is
another killer, because if I remember correctly, it's like she like shoots the girl and kills her, and she's like, "I'm the killer," like just straight up. It's like very like it's all over the top. It's what it is.
Yeah,
like, that's
it's like she shoots the Liv in Scream 5, and then she goes, "Welcome to Act 3." It's just like it's all over the top a lot of the times. Like, we do get very deep, serious character stuff, but then like a lot of the killer stuff is very over the top. The killer's always tripping and falling somewhere. Like, that's what Scream is.
It's kind of why even though I know a lot of people don't like 4, that's kind of why I like Emma Roberts' performance in 4, because it's just like not overacting. She just really creepy as hell when the reveal.
I think she's crazy like that in real life. So I think she's just taking a little bit of her personal thing and just upping it to be a serial killer.
Yeah, and then to me, that's the only time I never thought of her ever overacting. It was just like you watching her being nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To go back to what you asked
Yeah.
about, like legacy characters, stuff like that. Yeah, I kind of mirror that because I was a very vocal person about not liking the choices that they made, specifically like in real life with Nev Campbell, and not, I feel like not giving her what she wanted was kind of a disrespectful thing that they did, because it's like, maybe if it was like a legacy, like male actor in a horror franchise, they'd probably give him the money. Or even if it's Jamie Lee Curtis, it's like in Halloween, it's like she controls most of that franchise. And I feel like Nev Campbell, they're like, you want too much, just take a hike. That aside, I think that's why I kind of like started to dislike Radio Silence, and not Radio Silence specifically. I don't think they really had anything to do with that, but like trying to dislike their new take on Scream. That being said, because I like this one so much, I feel like they didn't disrespect Sydney, just like Stacy was saying. I almost said Sydney. But
You can call
yeah,
me Sydney. It's fine.
Okay, Sydney. And then when they were like kind of mentioning her like throughout, it felt like she was still an important part of the franchise. They didn't just like totally throw her out and just like, who? Sydney who? Like, is she still a very important part of the...
This was definitely a decision that was made on behalf of the producers. It does not feel like either the writers nor Radio Silence were pushing for this. It definitely feels like it was a producer thing. The only thing that I can imagine is at this point is, unless the producers are just totally unreasonable, given how big a role, because obviously Hayden Panettiere's in it a bit more, but the role that Gale had in this movie, unless Nev Campbell's role was only to that extent, she was essentially a glorified cameo, and she was asking for like leading actress money. That's the only thing I could think of, or like the same money maybe that she made on Scream 5, because I presume all three of them got paid well for that movie, considering how much they're in it. Like, that is the only way I could think of where the way that they treated it and the publicness of it was justified. If she was asking for, I don't know, like 30 million to do like 5 minutes or something, like, sure, I can sort of see it coming from that angle. But other than that, yeah, you're right. From a producer standpoint, the way that they handled it is one of the poorest things I've seen in a while.
I mean, then again, it's like then even they have what Gale have. That's sad, because Gale had probably my favorite scene in the whole movie is the Ghostface attack on her. Like, I think from a directing standpoint and like what intense, well directed, very well written scene, and like that whole scene itself. Like the hardest moment in the movie ever on the edge of my seat, not knowing where they go, whether they kill Gale or not. I want to ask you guys this: were you okay with them kind of throwing away Danny in the last one with Heavy Gale writing the book and insulting Jimmy Memory a little bit? Or were you not okay with that?
I mean, in terms of, so it's about the creative decision to have her write the book about the killings.
Yeah, decided doing the last one at the end of the movie.
At least to me, it like, and again, I'm somebody who has a vague memory of the other films. She's always stood, like, my memory of the character is that she's kind of always the go-getter. Like, she's a reporter by trade. So it to me, at least, it didn't feel like it was a wholly disrespectful decision, because it feels like the move that someone like her would make.
Yeah, it was on brand for sure. It was definitely on brand.
Yeah.
Like, you could argue it because the reason that they said she wouldn't in the previous one is sentimental value, but like, she's also moved on into another relationship in this movie, which is very briefly said. And, I mean, that guy's more of a dead body than he is a character, but like, you could argue that at a certain point, sentimentality goes out the window for a paycheck.
But you also have like the idea that in Scream 5, Dewey said you're only happy when you're writing. So she got back to writing. And like that's, and like the go-getter aspect of Gale you talked about, that's exactly what she is. Because in like Scream 4, she's sitting there trying the whole time to get on the case and stuff like that. And, Dewey's like, I can't, I can't let you. And she's like, I wrote the book on this. Literally.
But I had to bring up, I love the museum. That museum, they have
it's amazing.
A killer museum somewhere like that. I hope
Yeah,
they don't.
so
Oh, sorry.
no, finish your thought. My bad.
Yeah, I hope they don't bring Stu back. I think that I hate when they so on the nose with that whole theory. Why?
The stew thing is something I've always wanted, but it's just a very personal thing because like my two favorite characters are Stu and Dewey, and Randy like a very close third.
I mean, how do you
Yeah,
explain
so
him surviving a television falling on his head?
well, I mean, easily I feel like because they didn't really show him actually dead. They just showed like his body under a TV, and then in this one they said
Look,
if he actually
I'm
died.
sorry.
So
As much as I don't think it would be a good idea to do it from a creative standpoint, I just feel like it'd be retreading into franchise nostalgia more than anything to bring a character like that back.
that's why I want
If Mason Gooding's character can survive both of these fucking, I mean, his like death scene where he obviously survives it. When he survived at the end, my buddy turned to me and he goes, "He's a human pincushion," because that guy has taken so many stabs.
it. That's
And so, like, how do you miss any artery in the human body when you get stabbed that many times?
That's the moment when he stopped being like the Randy character. Now he's the Dewey.
It's kind of like the
he
same
is,
thing
yeah.
with Kirby. Like in number 4, how she survive a really deep night wound.
She has a really nasty scar
The
to
reason I
show.
bring that up is because if there's a franchise in which you could pull off 30 years later a guy who had a TV dropped on his head somehow fucking survived under the radar all these years, it's Scream. Like realistically,
It's Scream. It's just it's a horror franchise. Like you could really write around pretty much anything.
You can't apply real world logic to any of these films. Because at the end of the day, this is a Scream film set in New York, and in New York, the Ghostface would get gunned down. Like you run into a bodega where the owner owns a shotgun. He's not falling that easy to you.
That is such a good die.
Well, also if that was Maroney though, he's like a cop, so maybe he has tactics.
So did he pay off the medical examiner, the coroner? So
stop applying logic to this movie, Chris.
Let's go outside of the movie.
I mean, what if he had to?
Down.
Like they were kind of busy trying to stay alive. It's not like they were watching the news for, news of Queen's death.
Yeah, like you could have just picked up. Like the moment they're out of the apartment, just get up and walk away yourself.
Right.
Like,
I don't think that they had to bribe anybody because
they weren't filing death incident reports. Like
yeah.
They don't have to.
But
and if you're filing an incident report, you're filing one for the most recent death, which would be the girl whose head got taken off by a trash can. So because technically that one came latest.
I will say, because we brought up the bodega, that I thought that was like one of the best, like most intense sequences in the movie and the franchise, really.
The biggest body count for a Ghostface killing somebody in one scene.
Right? Like as soon as he popped in there, because you think, oh, you're in a convenience store, a bodega, you're safe.
Right.
And then he pops in there and just kills the first guy he sees. I'm like, this guy doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that was surprising.
It mirrors the first Scream when they're buying ice cream or whatever, and you see the Ghostface lurking in the back, through the glass. So now,
I mean, hell, Ghostface attacking people broad daylight now. So like, yeah.
Well, in the first one, he's in the school attacking people in broad daylight.
Killing the principal.
It's from the very beginning. They never.
But I think what the thing is with Ghostface, the Ghostface killer in particular, is that like because there's so many of them, because the costume is like, oh, well, you find that costume at any five and dime, down right around the corner. It feels like because that costume's everywhere, and even people who aren't the killer, like people on the subway dressed as Ghostface, you're like, I don't know which one is the real Ghostface with the intent. I feel like because of that, it emboldens someone who puts on that is that they feel invincible and they blend, they just feel like they can do anything and get away with anything. So
Right. So I'll jump into, I guess, the final point I'll bring up. So in addition to what I bring up, if you guys have any final thoughts, we can throw them out here before we move on. Which is one of the criticisms that I've seen specifically coming from Scream fans, which is why I want to bring this up to you guys, is not the lack of body count in this film, but the lack of body count for characters who matter. Because this is technically, if you count everyone involved, this is, I believe, the highest survival rate of anyone in the Scream franchise. Because obviously, the implication is that Sydney is still out there as a character who could return in the future. And obviously, I'm sure they would like to bring her back if they can work out whatever issues there were. So that would be one. Gail would be two. Kirby, right? That's Hayden Panseri's character.
Yeah.
That's three. Sam, Tara, Chad, Mindy, and it's up in the air if they would bring him back, but Josh Segarra's character, the neighbor who's sort of into Melissa Barrera, also survives the film. So that's 8 potential characters you could have returning into the next film. What'd you say?
What do they call him? Cute guy or hot guy or
cute
something?
Cute guy next door. Like something like that.
I mean, he has a name in the credits. I just know the actor.
Yeah, but in this movie, they call him that all the time, like even to his face.
But yeah, so there's 8 characters that survive. So the 2 questions I had to sort of wrap this up is, because it is a horror film, which one was the coolest kill in your guys' opinion? But then also, as Scream fans, what are your guys' thoughts on the fact that essentially any character of worth, and even some characters not of worth, because Josh Segarra was certainly not the most important supporting character in this film, are surviving the franchise and moving on? And just kind of what are your thoughts there? I'll go to you first, Stacey, just because the other 2 had spoke last on the last point.
Well, as far as the legacy characters and just the survival rate in general, like I already said, I think Gail should have died. I like Kirby, but it wouldn't have bothered me if she had died. It would have, I think, been fitting. I don't want to say I'm not disappointed that everyone survived, but I was kind of like, oh, everyone survived. Okay, like that's unusual. I think it would have been good to have at least one of the core 4. I didn't want them necessarily to die, but at the same time, I think one of them should have died. But it didn't really make me not enjoy the movie as much that there was a high survival rate at all. And yeah, I'll be happy to see them come back. And maybe they can keep Gail to kill her next time. I don't know. As far as favorite kills, like I said, I'm not really there for the kills, so that's tough for me. I did really like that they recreated the Stu TV on the head.
Right.
Yeah, I liked that throwback quite a bit. So I'll go with that one. And that's it.
Chris, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I love it. It's hard to say I have a problem with them not killing the character off, because I love all of 4 of the characters. I did love Kirby coming back. I wish they give a bigger role next time. I'd like to see what in it, but I wish they were in it more. But yeah, I love this film. My favorite kill probably is a tie between the detective being stabbed in the eye, and then they dumped this thing. That's because they got a shock value moment. That it's a more brutal death than just being stabbed or shot. A dumpster end up killing you. Like that was it.
Yeah, Chad, up to you.
Yeah, no, I kind of mirror a lot of what Stacey said. You know, I am a defender where I don't like the Randy kill in Scream 2, and you know, I even did like a whole debate where, you know, people were like, that death was needed, and I'm like, he did it just to basically you shock the audience and be like, you know, no one's safe. And it's like, but everyone's safe up until 5. Like, then no main characters died after that, except until 5. You know, even Kirby, they brought her back. You know, so I wasn't like angry about it, or I didn't like complain that much. But yeah, like if I would have killed off any characters, like a legacy and a core 4, I would have killed Gail, just because it seemed like a really great moment. She came back. She didn't have that big of a part, but she had a lot of great callbacks to the first one. I call the punch with Sam missing and then Tara connecting. So I call that the 1-2 Carpenter. I dug that moment, and just everything with Gail I thought was pretty great. her going straight for the gun, and then that whole sequence, and then when she finally gets to talk to Ghostface on the phone, and then she says to, I guess, not get Sydney to come to her, she says whatever, like what she say, he didn't
Tell
get me,
Sydney,
something like that.
tell Sydney he didn't get me.
Exactly. So I think like right then I think would have been a really good death. And then as much as I like Gail, and then I would have killed off Chad. Even though I'm Chad, I would have killed off Chad. Just because, not that I don't like him, I think he's a good character, but I think that would have also maybe added to stuff Tara could deal with in the next one. And the boyfriend's kind of always dying anyways.
And
so either
you deal with it because you think he's dead, so you like process that and move on.
Because
Or-
that
yeah.
17 times.
I was
like,
gonna say I agree with those two characters specifically, just because with both of them it looks like they're already kind of there, and then it's like, oh wait, no, they survived. It would have been real easy to just not have them survive, because I'm sorry, they essentially synchronized stabbed the guy. How
Yeah,
do you
that was
survive that?
Yeah.
That was
the same way
crazy.
Dewey survived being stabbed in the first one, like that.
I think so, and I'll throw this out here before we move on, because I've sent Matt the text, so he'll be back on in a minute. I'm glad that everyone enjoyed the film. This has probably been, of all the spoiler discussions we've done, this has probably been the most positive, in that everyone clearly enjoyed the movie. So I think that's awesome.
Great movie.
So what I would say is, I think, because what these guys have proven so far is they love subverting the expectation with the opening. So I'm just going to throw this out here as a thought quickly before we move on. I think the way to subvert the expectation in the next one is to kill one of these core characters in the opening.
Why did they kill
Because
Sydney and
we've
Gail in
seen
the
them, because we
opening?
saw them. We had a character survive one in the fifth one. We saw the one they did in this one, which, because Matt's in the background, I'm not going to say what they do, but we do have, again, a subversion of the opening in this film. I think the way to do it would be to kill a core character, be a legacy character or one of the surviving characters from this movie. Kill them in the opening, because for the most part, none of these openings ever start with characters that you're already familiar with. It's always usually new characters. And I think that would be the biggest shock to anyone, that they just kill somebody off in the opening right away, get it over with, let's move on. Which I think would be, again, to continue to shock the audience, which it seems like these guys want to do.
Yeah, I think that if they opened on a character we know, it would definitely be like, wait, are they not going to do the kill, or is this person going to die right away? It would throw you quite a bit if they opened with a known character.
It would be cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So, Matt, you can go ahead and hop in and join us as we are going to move on, guys. Stream 6 is still currently in theaters. So if you have not seen it yet, I'm sorry we spoiled the entire thing for you, but go check it out anyways. It was a fun ride, and I'm sure it'll be in Paramount Plus as soon as they can get it there once it stops making money. So with that said, we're going to go ahead. Before we move on to Creed 3, I did have one small news story that I included just because it was something that we had referenced on the show previously. So a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about Gladiator 2. It was one of these movies that we mentioned in a list of Hollywood's remaking movies and making sequels. This is just really weird. And Gladiator 2 is one of those. This movie is starting to potentially look legit. Aside from the fact that Ridley Scott is returning to direct and Academy nominee Paul Mescal is in the lead role, Deadline reported this week that joining Mescal in the film, fellow Oscar nominee from this year, Barry Keoghan, and previous Oscar winner Denzel Washington are both lining up to join the project. Keoghan will purportedly be playing the antagonist of the film, the current Emperor of Rome, at the start of the movie, while Washington will be playing an unknown supporting character. But apparently the pitch was made to Washington by Scott directly. It's also worth noting that the two have previously worked together on American Gangster, so they do have experience. The movie is looking to begin production this summer, hence why the cast is being put together now with a November 2024 release date in mind. So clearly they think they can gun for Oscars here. So Matt, I'm going to go to you first since you're joining us back in here. Gladiator 2, because we talked about it, you were here. It's a weird idea, the fact that this movie's getting a sequel over 20 years later. But now that it's looking like our leads are going to be two very young recent Oscar nominees in Paul Mescal and Barry Keoghan, and Denzel Washington joining as sort of that legendary figure in the film. What are your thoughts on that cast?
I think the cast is really good. I still don't care about the movie. I still don't understand why they're making a movie, if I'm going to be honest.
Fair.
And I think for most people, they'll see it, be like, oh, I like Denzel Washington. I like Barry Keoghan, or however you say his last name. He's Irish. I'm
Barry
not
Keoghan.
Irish, so I don't know how to say that.
No one
People be
does.
like, oh, yeah, I
There's
like
there's the proper way to say his name, and then there's the American way to say his name. And at this point, I think he's just accepted the American version.
I thought it was
Because
Keoghan
if
or
you
something.
don't, then you end up like
Kagan.
Saoirse Ronan, spending your entire career trying to tell people how to say your name.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people see those two are added and they're like, okay, I recognize those people. Denzel, obviously, and Barry, I recognize him from Eternals. Okay, cool. I still don't care about this movie. I don't think this is going to be like this massive blockbuster hit. I think it'll do pretty well, but I think most people be like, why? No Russell Crowe. Why are we doing this?
Well,
The
he
story
dies.
ended
Oh, sorry.
pretty. Well,
He died.
spoilers. He died. I don't know. Maybe he comes back from the dead. I don't know. No, but a lot of people be like, well, what's the point? Because there's no Russell Crowe. That was his story. The story ended in the first one pretty nicely. So why are we doing this? This is just like R.I.P.D. 2. Why are we doing this?
Okay, well, I have more questions around R.I.P.D. 2 than Gladiator 2.
At least
We
that
couldn't
kind of
even
makes
drag
more
Jeff
sense.
Bridges' corpse out for that one. Chad, I'll go to you next. What are your thoughts on the cast for this film and its existence in general?
Well, I actually haven't been paying attention, so this is the first I'm hearing of it. I don't super care about Gladiator just in general. I kind of mirror what Matt said, like it not who cares, because if he has a good idea for a movie, sure, but it's like also one of those things where it's like it is kind of a weird movie to be like, let's do a sequel, because it does wrap up pretty nicely, and it's like one singular movie that didn't it win Best Picture? It did.
Yeah,
It did.
That won Best Picture. Boom! It's just one film. Why make another one? But I mean, if he has a good idea, why not? I feel like some of my favorite movies of all time now are like legacy sequels. Blade Runner 2049 and Top Gun Maverick. So and I don't love Top Gun, and I don't love like the first one, and I don't love Blade Runner that much either. So
weirdly,
I'm like, maybe Gladiator 2 will be my thing, even though I don't super care that much about the first one. But casting in general, I think is great. I don't know much about Paul Mescal. I still haven't seen After Sun, but I didn't really care about Barry in Eternals, but I did like him in Killing of a Sacred Deer and Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting if Ridley Scott knows how to make a movie. So yeah, we'll see.
Sometimes. Stacy, I'll go to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, I like Chad. I didn't really know much about this. I vaguely had heard something about a sequel at one point, but not about the casting and stuff. I mean, I think Paul and Barry are both great actors, and they have good dramatic weight to them, and they'll probably be great at whatever they ask them to do. Will they get me in the theater because they're in it alone? No, that they won't. And I feel like this really doesn't need to exist, but a lot of times I have no interest in something, and then a trailer comes out and it looks great and I go see it. So who really knows? Like right now, I'd say I have no interest. They don't need to do this, but if it looks good, I'll be in the theater.
I think Stacy just wishes Matt Damon was in it. So
I wish Matt Damon was in everything.
Hey, the cast isn't done yet. They have a chance.
He probably will cameo. Let's face it. He'll probably cameo.
He did just work with Matt Damon. They may have had a good working. The Last Duel is one of the better films Ridley Scott's made in the last 10 years.
True. Let's just hope
Chris,
that
I'll go to you
for
for quick thoughts before we move on.
I love the first Gladiator. I didn't really want to see a sequel to this because this first one is an amazing film alone. But I love the casting. I love Denzel. I love Barry Keoghan. Anybody saying, "Oh, you can't play a villain," like watch the leader scene for the Batman, like that, much better representation of him playing villain than what we got in the actual movie. But and I haven't seen After Sun, so I'm not sure about the main actor himself. But I heard nothing but good thing about it. Billy Scott, what have you done for me lately? Besides The Martian and The Last Duel, where I loved, everything else he had done lately sucked. Prometheus sucked. Alien Covenant.
I
You
like
know why they didn't have
Prometheus.
Matt Damon?
Alien Covenant sucked. House of Gucci was a, really not that good, and the less we say about Jared, the better.
It's a great
Jared
comedy.
Leto was magical in that movie. I don't
Yeah.
know what you mean.
So it maybe it will bring me back to the Ridley Scott love for Last Duel and The Martian. Let's hope. But
You know what they could do? Oh, sorry.
We see. I'm more excited for Wicked coming out in November next year than I am for Gladiator 2. Just thing for next year.
I actually have a really good idea of how Gladiator 2 could be sold to people. So just have a scene, like Paul Mescal and Denzel doing whatever, and then Jared Leto from House of Gucci, that character comes in and just does some inspirational speech. That will sell tickets. Just put his character from House of Gucci in there. Now, I will say, I really hope this is not like The Counselor. Great cast, pathetically awful movie. Well, let's
House of
not go
Gucci.
to The
Cast.
Counselor.
Bad.
Or
Not
House
good.
of Gucci, yeah.
Listen, Jared Leto's magnificent in that movie, but we can leave him exactly where he is.
I also forget Exodus God of Kings talking about. So he only...
Also, Chris, did I hear you correctly? Did you just say you're looking forward to Wicked more than you are Gladiator 2?
It's a fan versus...
Well, I was going to say, well-known musical fan says he's looking forward to Broadway adaptation more than any movie in existence. I feel like any movie could go in place of Gladiator.
You're talking to me too about the movie coming out in November next year. I'm more looking forward to Wicked than I am Gladiator 2.
To be fair, a Wicked movie makes more sense than Gladiator 2, so I can understand most people being more excited for that.
Yeah, but Wicked being 2 movies, I don't know if that's necessary.
And John directed in Heights with Grace, so he is right now on a good roll.
It is a book series, not just one book. Just putting that out there as far as it being 2 movies.
Well, Wicked is
I think they're just basing it on the musical, like what went to stage, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, then that's weird.
Yeah. Anyways, speaking of something that's on a roll, let's talk about Creed 3. We have moving on to our second discussion topic, and that's going to go to Creed 3 tonight, the 9th overall Rocky film and the first without Rocky himself. Creed 3 serves as Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut, and he delivered in style. The film sees Donnie Creed, played by Jordan, following a few years of retirement, reunite with childhood friend Damian Anderson, played by MCU star Jonathan Majors, following his release from prison. Though Dame was once a friend, he's out for blood this time around, giving Adonis the biggest fight of his life. In addition to Jordan and Majors, we see the return of Tessa Thompson, Wood Harris, Florian Montanu, Tony Bellew, and Felicia Rashad in their respective roles in the franchise. And we also add Mila Davis-Kent, Salinas Lavia, and fighter Jose Benavides Jr. in new supporting roles. God damn, those names are tripping me up. Ryan Coogler returns to the franchise to contribute to the screenplay alongside his brother Keegan Coogler and writer Zach Balin, best known for King Richard. Creed 3 received overwhelming positive reception with an 88% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and a 96% approval rating from audiences, with praise being shared all around between the leading performances, Jordan's direction, specifically of the fight scenes, and the script. The movie has also been a box office hit, opening nearly 20 million over initial projections, taking in 58 million on its opening weekend, and a total worldwide gross to date of 190.6 million, making it the highest grossing film of the series when not adjusted for inflation. Because if you do adjust for inflation, then Rocky grossed like 600 million, and that's a lot of money. But unadjusted, it is the highest grossing of the series. So I'll go to Matt first on this, just because this is the first spoiler discussion you get to hop in on. What were your initial thoughts on Creed 3?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was a fantastic film. I enjoyed the first Creed more, but to be fair, the first Creed is probably my second favorite in all of the Rocky universe movies. But yeah, it's great. The action sequences, the boxing fights. Those are all really well done, especially the last boxing fight. You could definitely tell the anime inspirations that Michael B. Jordan was talking about being brought to this movie. He was great in the movie. He did a really good job directing it. especially for his first time directing a movie. Jonathan Majors was great in this movie too. Just the acting in general is really, really good. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do, whether they go with Drago's kid, maybe do a movie with him, whether Michael B. Jordan is going to do the fourth Creed movie with him being a boxer, or, maybe they do it like Rocky V, but actually good. But yeah, I had a really good time watching that movie.
All right, Chad, over to you.
Well, just to piggyback off what Matt was just saying, I love the film also, but I think where they could go, I don't know if this where they will, but maybe they go a little bit of a time jump, and Adonis is teaching his daughter how to fight, and she has a big fight coming up, because they kind of allude to the fact that it's like, you look good in the ring and stuff like that. So
my favorite joke in the movie, her punching the kid in the skull.
Yes, that was a pretty incredible scene. No, I love this movie. I adore Jonathan Majors. I'm so excited for him, like, in the MCU, just because ever since I saw The Last Black Man in San Francisco, I've just adored Jonathan Majors ever since then. He's just a next level actor. He's just like an Adam Driver, like one of those where he's just, everything he's in, he's just going to be electrifying, and just like, just the best thing that you're seeing on screen right then. And so to sell this movie as, Jordan versus, Majors, I think it was just an incredible sell, because it's like, that's kind of like what you see with these big boxing fights, is like, the pay-per-view like event, like this guy versus this guy. So to sell the movie like that, I was like, okay, I have to see this. It's a third entry in a franchise, but I have to see this. And for me, I even went with my mom, who I don't think has seen any of the Creed movies. I'm not even sure she's seen any of the Rocky movies. And she loved it, and she was like, I didn't really need to know anything from those other movies. I think that hits it right on the nose, where it's like, it stands on its own. Like, everything you kind of need to know about the characters, you from the previous two or whatever, like, they kind of fill in those gaps, and you can just kind of assume things. And I love how they started off with building that relationship between Majors and Jordan, their characters, and then just showing Majors like determination, but also desperation. Like, this is my last chance to do something. So you can see his villain turn, but you could just see like his motivation the whole time. And for me, I'm just kind of like, I get it. Like, he's not doing it in the best ways, but I kind of get it. And if he feels betrayed by Jordan, and Jordan understands that, and because of what his mom kept from him, and there's just so many layers to this film. Like, it's not just a fun movie where there's a great fighting and stuff like that. There's deep character stuff in this. There's a death. There's stuff between Tessa and Michael B. Jordan that's really great. And there's the really great relationship that they have, where she's building him up, and vice versa, and stuff like that. The stuff with the daughter and Majors coming over and being like, oh, y'all have see-through floors, stuff like that. And and then like when you get into some of the sequences, like towards the end, like, well, the big fight, some of it's not even with the crowd. It's like they're so zoned in that they throw away the crowd visually. And I'm sorry, I love this film. I could just sit here and talk about it by myself for a long time. I'll let someone else. I loved it.
So yeah.
What was the question? What was the original question?
No, you're good.
I don't know what it was.
To jump in quickly myself, I think the biggest thing that this film benefits from, because basically since Rocky 2, because I guess technically the third film had Mr. T, who's like kind of sort of an actor, but he's also kind of just a personality that appeared in film and television. For some reason, this franchise lost the having an actor portray your antagonist, because the first two films had Carl Weathers, but then it was like Mr. T, Dolph Lundgren, who wasn't really much of an actor. Then you had, I believe his name is Tommy Davidson, portrayed who was a boxer, who portrayed that character. It was a boxer who portrayed Mason the Lion Dixon in Rocky Balboa. Tony Bellew portrayed the main antagonist in Creed, and same thing with Andre Wheeler portraying a boxer in Creed as well as the villains, and then Florian Montano, who's since gone on to become an actor. He's appeared in other things, but Creed was his feature film debut, and he had no acting experience. It
Yeah.
makes a world of fucking difference when you have an actual actor portraying your antagonist. And it's like the opposite of like you can teach you like they spent the entire franchise teaching boxers how to act, and for once we're teaching an actor how to box. And I think it makes a world of difference because this character is in years within this franchise. He is the most fleshed character that they've had. He is the most complex character because all three antagonists that the Creed franchise has had have been these one-note shit-talking boxers who are intimidating in the ring, but they have nothing else going for them. Even in Creed 2, all of the character work with the Drago character was actually coming from Dolph Lundgren as the father, because now he's an actor who can properly act. A lot of it did not go to the Victor character. And so I think having Majors be a proper actor for Jordan to play off of means you could make that such a better written film. And having Zach Balin, who obviously I believe he was nominated for King Richard for the Oscar, bringing him in to add to the script as well was a great decision. But I think genuinely that just makes a world of difference. Having a proper actor play your villain and having a good team of writers, because as much as I like Stallone, he's not the strongest writer, and I think that's what Creed 2 suffers from a bit, the fact that it wasn't the strongest written and it did dip a little too much into the nostalgia of it. This movie does feel like it's just trying to make a clean break. It feels like it's trying to make a clean break from a lot of the baggage this franchise carries, and I think it does it really successfully. Stacey, down to you, just initial thoughts on the film.
Oh, okay, initial thoughts. I'm not a boxing fan. I'm not a fan of boxing movies. All the big boxing prestige movies that have been up for Oscars, haven't watched any of them. Not a Rocky fan. I watched Creed 1 and 2 Saturday, went to see Creed 3 Sunday, and it is my favorite movie of this year so far. I absolutely adored it. I adored the boxing. It made me want to watch boxing. I thought the boxing was actually beautiful in the final fight. Like it just had this like fluidity and poetry to it. I just kept thinking how beautiful it was. It was so weird. I'm told that boxing in real life will not have that effect on me, so no. I don't want to watch this much now. But yeah,
Creed 1 might actually be the most realistic the boxing's ever looked, especially because they brought it with the whole HBO special thing, like the way they formulated it. That's probably the most realistic the boxing's ever looked.
Yeah, that wasn't beautiful to me. So I'm all set with real boxing, I guess. But yeah, I absolutely adored it. I adored the fights. I adored the family dynamics. I adored the relationship between Jordan and oh my God, I'm so blanking. I know his stupid name.
Jonathan
What
Majors?
is it, Chad?
Jonathan Majors?
Yes, thank you. Sorry. I knew his name like 2 seconds before I started to talk. I love their dynamic. They're both so good. And yeah, I mean, those are my initial thoughts.
All right, and then Chris?
Besides my one glaring issue, I'm sure we did get to it a little bit later with the film, which did bother me a little bit after the movie. I love this film. This is my second favorite Creed movie. I like the first one just a little bit more. Mostly because Stallone and a few other things, but I thought they were great. I thought Major was phenomenal. I thought the sequence was amazing. You guys haven't mentioned it. I love the anime style to the boxing match. It felt so like watching anime. You could tell Michael B. Jordan a little bit love for anime with some of the way they box and such. It reminded me of something like Dragon Ball Z, something like Naruto, that style they have with the punches and such. And I love the development. I love his relationship with his daughter. So it was really cute, very touching. I love this scene with the tea party in the beginning. That made me smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and it go to show you, Jonathan Major is an actor to stay. He did get Oscar one day. He was the best thing about Ant-Man and Quantumania, and him and Michael B. Jordan and a few other people are the best thing about this. I love the relationship between Creed and his adopted mom. We do get to the issue a little bit later about one part there, but I love everything about this film.
I'll just ask you because you're out of all of us, you sound the most negative because you keep bringing up this one glare. What's the one glaring issue? Just because I'm curious to hear what it is.
I love this film. I do. When the doctor mom died, I get the whole situation with Stallone, but the fact that Rocky wasn't there at the funeral is a clear issue. It's kind of like, okay, Rocky should be there, and someone he knew from with Apollo Creed and everything going on. And it does bug me a little bit after the movie. Just like like you did have Rocky late in one thing, it had to be the funeral scene. Like acknowledge him at least, or say he busy doing something else. He could have come. Like,
Well, I mean, I
yeah.
feel like
Hmm.
my counter to that would be her, even though she was sick, her passing is very sudden. They state that as much in the movie. It definitely came a little quicker than I think the characters may have been anticipating. But the other part of it is I feel like the end of Creed 2 explained where he was fine enough. He finally decided to walk away from holding on to everything in his past and go and be with his son and his grandson and sort of properly for the first time in the franchise move forward, because ever since this franchise started losing characters, the Rocky character, and even in the two Creed films, and like I'm somebody who like I totally vouch for the fact that Stallone should have won the Oscar for Creed in 2015. He should have, because he's excellent in that film. But the Rocky character has kind of been written the same way for the last like 5 films, which is he's just this angry character that's sort of holding on to all the tragedy that had happened to him. And it felt like at the end of Creed 2, the character properly moved on. And so that's why to me, like I know similar with Scream, weirdly enough, with Nev Campbell, it was disputes behind the scenes with the producer that led to him not being in this. But quite frankly, I don't think he was missed.
Yeah, I would say it. Everything they did with Ned Campbell to acknowledge him enough that you think he would really try to reach out in a way, but
I mean, I guess my answer to that is it's not a Rocky film. Like at a certain point, if you're gonna name the film's Creed, it does have to become its own franchise. And they do reference Rocky. Like clearly, it's very stated that Rocky's clearly still having an influence on Creed's career, and he uses Rocky as the selling pitch to set up the match between I forget the character's name, but the other boxer and Dame. Like, so he's very clearly still an influence in this world. And if anything, if I'm being honest, and it was Matt brought up The Wire at the start of the show, and we talked about Lance Reddick. Speaking of The Wire, Wood Harris is an actor who's been in these films that up until this point I think had been totally wasted as just this background character that felt like a name drop because he's the son of a character from the Rocky franchise. He kind of steps into the role that you imagine Rocky would have played in this movie, and I think he does so excellently, to the point where I legitimately didn't miss Rocky in this movie. It didn't even hit my mind until after the movie was over. Oh yeah, this was a Rocky film about Rocky.
I mean, he was so good at the comic relief needed in a film, like to have a little laugh here and there.
Yeah, like easily maybe the funniest moment to me in the whole movie, and it's a mix of him and again Jonathan Majors, is when he's like saying to Creed, like, we shouldn't have done this. This was a bad idea, and he just goes real quiet as Majors walks by, and it's like, oh, you gonna stop talking? Come on, keep going. Like I forget the exact line, but like that to me got one of the funniest laughs because it's just such a subtle character dynamic of like. He doesn't like this guy, but he's still clearly intimidated by him enough that he's not going to talk shit with him standing right next to him.
I mean, I thought Rocky could have been like a nice touch to have him in there, but I didn't miss him at all, and it just I don't think it was really needed. So for me, it wasn't like a glaring like issue with the movie, but I could see huge Rocky fans being angry.
If anything, I feel like if he's not in the movie as a character, but he shows up for a funeral scene briefly, it's almost distracting from the point of the scene.
True.
Because
that's
you're like, fuck, that's Rocky. And then he's gone again. Like I feel like it would distract to just because then you can't just have Stallone like okay, so to compare it to another funeral scene, right? Like in the MCU, right, when they did Tony Stark's funeral, that is just a series of characters standing there watching the funeral happen. And some of them, like when like having Ty Simpkins be there as like a callback to Iron Man 3, and the fact that even if it was off screen, there was still a relationship to an extent between those two characters, right? That's one of those things where it's not distracting to have a character like that show up as a cameo. Because
my bad. I accidentally clicked
it's
my
not
phone
distracting
and
to have a
that popped
character
up.
like that show up as a cameo because most people aren't going to recognize him on first watch. It's going to be like who was that character? And then you're going to go look it up and realize who it was. Whereas like if Rocky was just standing in frame during a funeral scene and that was all he was in the movie, like if he's in the movie, then you'd be obligated to give him a dialogue scene. And now you just continue asking the question of like, well, why doesn't Rocky stay and help him train for the Dame fight? Because this is the biggest fight of his career and he's been retired and Rocky would know what that's like. And to me, it just opens a whole vault of doors of why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing this? Because if he's flying back to LA for her funeral, why wouldn't he stay and help his protege prepare for, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's criticism of the film just because I think it causes more issues than it does solve them.
My only nitpick with the movie, I love the movie overall. Like that, my only nitpick that did kind of take me out a little bit in the film.
So, in terms of conversation, I'm going to throw it out there to whoever wants to pick it up first, and we'll throw it around because it's something that everyone sort of touched on briefly. The fight scenes. The choreography in this film, the way that they're shot, everything about it is very different from the previous two films. It's very different from anything that's been done in the Creed franchise. And it's arguably, as a director, Michael B. Jordan's biggest input into this film. It's his biggest addition. I'm not an anime fan. I read that he was inspired by anime when it comes to the fight scenes, but I'm not a fan of anime. I don't watch a lot of it. So to me, I didn't notice that. But specifically what stood out to me was the way that they sort of shot and framed the Damien character. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Downey's Sherlock Holmes movies, where he's sort of like analyzing the details of what's happening in front of him and like picking up on the fact that like his arm keeps tweaking. Okay, keep hitting that as much as I can because it's a noticeable thing. Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
Matt.
Sorry, what?
I
got so many things going on.
What? Keep talking.
What are we doing? Wait, that was the wrong one.
Talk Stallone and then talk about the fighting again.
I was going to say, because first off, I want to apologize for clicking that and having that pop up. That was like Stallone just coming out of nowhere for the funeral.
Matt's having a hard time tonight, guys. He's a little off.
I got this dog right over here. Can I flip my camera? I don't think I can.
Oh,
I'm not even going to attempt it because I might shut the stream down on accident. And my dog over there, you guys are talking about all this stuff. I was trying to get in about Stallone. I got a game on right now, and my Bulls are blowing this lead away. They're up 25. Now they're only up by 12. There's a lot.
That's nothing new. Talk Stallone.
There's nothing new about the Bulls blowing the lead. But what I was going to say about Stallone, real quick, then I'll get to the fight scenes or whatever. It was a little noticeable that he wasn't in it, especially with them mentioning Rocky. You would think, oh, you know, he's going to pop up because they mentioned him a few times. And I mean, they even had when Creed won the fight, spoilers, even though this is spoiler talk, they played the Rocky theme just a little bit, kind of like they did with, I think, the first Creed, maybe even in the second Creed too.
I'll be back in 1 second. Sorry. Keep going.
Oh, you're just going to leave while I'm talking. Okay, fine.
I'll have my headphones in. I'm going to listen to every word that you say.
I believe you. But no, anyway, the funeral thing, I didn't think he needed to show up there because kind of like what Aaron said, he just shows up to that and leaves. It would have been a little weird. What I think could have been a really good opportunity for them was when he's training, and he's struggling, maybe they call Rocky to come in, talk to him, give him some inspiration, and then he starts to get going again, and he starts to get better. And then Rocky's, not coaching him, but he's with, his team at the final boxing match. That could have been a cool thing, but again, I understand why he wasn't in it. He wants the rights, for his kids and whatnot. They're not going to give him the rights. He hates the people that own the rights, so, it is what it is. But, yeah, the fight scenes in that movie were really, really cool. Like I said, the anime, inspirations that were involved in it with, like, the gut punch, and all the crowd is just gone, and it's, just one-on-one, them focusing on each other, and there's, like, glimpses of them when they were younger. That was, like, is it realistic? No. Like, if you watch a boxing match, the crowd's going to stay there. But it was still really cool. It was still really, really cool.
Really?
I really did enjoy
So
it.
This is
Yeah, they don't
art,
disappear.
okay?
It's like
In
putting the
Logan
audience
Paul
in
Floyd Mayweather fight, the crowd stayed. They didn't disappear.
It's like putting the
Um,
audience on stage during Rocky the Musical. Like,
Yeah, it's just, but no, it was really cool though, and I thought they did a really good job with Dame's first actual fight, in that championship match where they show, okay, this guy, not only is he really, really good, but if you're not careful, he's going to do whatever he can. He's going to cheat. He's going to try to break your bones with like any part of his body
Elbow.
whatsoever, his elbow. They did a really, really cool job with that and a really good job too. And that was just another way where they made him, intimidating because he might have been outside of, Drago and maybe, Creed in the first two Rocky movies, probably the most intimidating villain they've had in any of these movies. So, yeah, like the way they shot the fights, like I still think in the first Creed movie, the one shot fight is still,
Mhm.
that might be
The
my
best one.
favorite, but the fight sequences in this movie are some of the best in any Rocky movie.
Yeah,
And I'm going to go grab my charger real quick.
I'm gonna jump in real quick
Cheers.
because I also just like Aaron didn't really like I like anime, but I don't like it so much that I went like this is like anime. So it's interesting to hear that because now I kind of want to watch more anime and then watch this again, kind of stuff like that. But
it's pretty much
even
like sorry,
no, it's all right. What were you say?
like it reminded me of Dragon Ball Z, just the way
Yeah.
they do some of the action in that.
Without I guess like all the flying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like but like even though I don't like anime that much to really notice it when it's in a live action movie like this, I still thought the action was incredible. Especially I just love to see the different fighting styles because Creed has his own, all the other fighters have their own, and then Majors has this like crazy, like unpredictable, like wide swinging kind of thing, and I love just how crazy unpredictable he was because I feel like that's kind of just like his character in general, and his fighting style really just kind of matched that. And then just like how they shot everything, with kind of stripping stuff away and having the cage behind them. I thought all that stuff was really incredible. But I also just love how like kind of brutal it showed everything being. Like the moment when frickin' Jonathan Major's tooth came out.
Yeah.
And he shoves it right back in.
Mhm.
And like that's how like dedicated he's like, my tooth, I don't give a shit. Let's get this fight. I'll deal with the tooth later. I love when that happened because it grossed me out and I went, oh my God, okay. But it just was a really cool moment because I feel like like a lot of that stuff just builds up his character. And oh man, yeah, fight sequences are fantastic.
My turn?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Aaron's gone, so it's a free for all. Yeah, I mean, I already touched on the final fight and how I found it to be beautiful, which is kind of weird, but true. I got what they were going for when they got rid of the audience. I don't watch anime. It wasn't anime to me. It was just a weird choice.
Mhm.
I didn't love it. But
Oh, okay.
didn't ruin the movie or even the fight scene for me. I was just like, oh, that's kind of a weird choice. Okay, that's fine. I think that the brutality of Major's characters, his ruthlessness, his animalistic nature, brought so much stress and tension and drama to that final fight. And I honestly, like, not being a Rocky fan, I totally thought the first one ended with him losing. So I always think that the main character can lose, which I guess isn't true. I found out is not true. That he doesn't lose in the first one. Like he does, but that's not like he doesn't in the end. Like he comes back and wins. But because I thought that, I've always thought that we could end on a loss. So
yeah, the stakes were there for sure.
Yeah.
Rocky,
So I think they were great. That's it.
and I thought Rocky did lose, and he
He
Rocky
did
did
lose
in
in
the
the
first
first
movie.
one, And then in
Yeah.
the second one, he came back.
He
and
came
won.
back and won.
See, that's what I
It's-
thought, but
and-
then someone told me that he loses in the first one, but then he wins at the end of the first one.
No, they lied.
Not Rocky.
Maybe
Okay.
Creed 2 when he lost the
Well,
first
I was right.
one.
You're telling
He
me
kind
that
You're
I
always
was
right,
wins in the
Stacey.
eyes of his girl.
Yeah.
Huh?
He
He
wins.
wins in the eyes of the
Yeah,
woman
fashion
he
up.
loves.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he has a whole thing where he's yelling, Rachel! Or no, not Rachel.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Adrian!
Batman.
Adrian!
What?
Adrian. It's Adrian, not Rachel.
Adrian.
I was thinking
Like one of the
Batman,
most famous parts of the franchise, like
and I completely
Rachel.
screwed up.
Also, like, we should
Rachel!
explain too that I've been in various ways like a dancer most of my life, and I think that's why I found a lot of beauty in that final fight, because it was like balletic. I can say ballet, but I can't say balletic very well for some reason. But it the fluidity of it, and the dodging and the weaving. Yeah, no, I just loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it. I want to. One of my favorite fight actually the training montage with him and Drago Kid. Like, Drago training him to beating the shit out of him a couple of times just to get him tougher and stuff. Like,
God,
it's that a small one of my favorite training montages for any Rocky Creed movie. Actually.
Yeah, and like some of like just the greatest, most epic moments that like just make you want to go, yeah, hell yeah. We're in this movie, like when he's kind of down, and then they have the Rocky music plays, and he gets up, and you're like, oh shit. So yeah, it was pretty epic.
Like, they want to keep Drago Kid training him. So, like, I am okay with that. That kind of like interesting dynamic between the two of them now. Like I love the fighting. I anime fan. I love the anime style. I hope Michael B. Jordan direct another Creed movie if they do another one. Like, he better than.
I was gonna say, I think that's a big takeaway. Is this was his debut, and it's you look at like all the other debuts that are just fantastic, like Ari Aster's Hereditary, stuff like that. And it's just like Michael B. Jordan, keep doing what you're doing.
Can I say, I love Stallone. I do. He better than Stallone at directing a Rocky Creed movie. That's Stallone.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. He does more stuff. I think that incredible.
Well, Stallone is a serviceable director. I'm not going to say he's ever been an incredible director.
Rocky Balboa is a fantastic movie that he directed, as is the fourth Rambo movie. That was just awesome. He's also
so he had
Creed 3 is
he had
better
two
though.
good years in the mid 2000s.
Rocky to Rambo and Creed to IPD, whatever we commit.
But yeah, so the final point we'll touch on before we move on, because there's not a lot I think to dive into, and I feel like we've hit all the points of praise. Like it's just worth saying, if you haven't seen the movie, go see it. It is a Rocky film, right? Like, to the convention, it is absolutely a Rocky film, but it's one of the best versions of it. The most interesting thing that's come of it is I feel like more than any film in this franchise in the last 15 years, this has renewed the interest to want to keep going. Because I think when Balboa came out, people were excited Rocky was back, but there was no interest to continue past that. When Creed came out, people were like, oh, this is cool, maybe a sequel, but there was nothing really to continue past that. Creed 2, kind of the same thing. It was like, this is cool. If it continues, that's awesome, but there's no hype around it. This movie's developed the hype around it. I feel like more than ever, maybe with the exception of the originals, there's hype around this franchise. And certainly with Amazon being new owners of the franchise, taking over MGM, they're going to be looking to try and capitalize as much as possible. And we've already heard, we know that Stallone himself has made pitches for spin-offs, be it another Rocky focused film or some other kind of spin-off in the vein of Creed with another young fighter. We know that Michael B. Jordan talked about the studio has told him that if he wants to make a Creed 4, greenlit, done, go make it. But he's also talked about a spin-off with the daughter. We've heard discussions about giving Florian Montano as Drago a starring role in something. A lot of people want Jonathan Majors to return in some capacity following this film. So there's a lot of directions that this could go. People are saying maybe make it a mini series on Amazon, like not a movie, take it to streaming in that sense. So the final point I'll bring up before we close out our discussion here is, and if there's any final thought you didn't get to say briefly, but I'll still throw it out there, of course.
Yeah.
Chad, I'll go to you first then. What would you like to see next from this? What is the thing that interests you the most going forward?
Specifically, well, I want to see Major's return, just because he was like my favorite part of the movie, and Mike, of course, Michael B. Jordan in it and directing, and his whole family. I would like to see the daughter maybe get older, like I said earlier, like a kind of maybe a little bit of a time jump. Maybe she's not directly fighting, maybe like she's just a little bit older, training up, and then they can slowly build to her maybe kind of taking over, something like that. I think that's the next logical step to go, because I feel like the main story with Creed and Jonathan Majors is kind of over, even though I adored that moment between them, because like the whole thing was them reconnecting and then settling their differences with a huge fight. And then I love the fact that after Creed wins, he goes and he apologizes to Jonathan Majors. I just thought that was a perfect moment, because it's just like, it settles things, but it's also Creed acknowledging I made a mistake, and I owed that to you. And I just think it would be great to see them become friends now that they've reconciled their differences. That all being said, I just wanted to throw out, this could end up being my favorite Rocky movie ever. I adored this one, and it's definitely top 3. I just have to rewatch the entire everything just to find that out. I don't know.
Absolutely. Chris, I'll jump down to you.
I loved it. Like I did probably my third favorite behind Rocky and Creed. But I think I would like to see them go for it. I know they kind of leave it open at the end that Johnson Major can come back. He still want that title. Like, they do kind of leave that open. Like, reach out to me. But I would like to see with daughter. I all for something new. That what I love best on boxing movies. Something different to them. I'm Million Dollar Baby if you had it. Like, but yeah, I'd be down for anything. I love this franchise. I think Michael B. Jordan have a great career ahead of him as director. And hey, bring me more Creed. Even TV show on Amazon. They do something really cool. And thank you. By the way, thank you, movie studio, for making your movie great under 1.5 hour, not like 2.5 hours, like a lot of movies been doing today. When I have a shorter movie. What?
Short ass movie.
Yep, just as long as your average Judd Apatow comedy. Stacy, I'll go over to you. What are your thoughts, and what would you want to see going forward?
Well, as far as going forward, not being a fan of the Rocky franchise in general, I don't know. Like, I don't really have strong. I did like the daughter. I would like to see more with her. We didn't even touch on the deaf representation and how they dealt with the genetics from Tessa Thompson's character and that whole side plot, which I thought was fantastic, and added so much heart to the movie. So yeah, I'd like to see her. Obviously she's real young. We're not going to see her like in the ring anytime real soon. But I don't know. Always more Majors in anything. Just put him in anything. That'll be good. Give him a show or a movie, actually. That's what I want to see. Yeah. I want him to spin off.
It's called Magazine.
Have him fight Matt Damon.
Yes. Have him fight Matt Damon.
Have him win.
Matt Damon would have to have weapons to fight.
Have him fight Matt Damon and Freaking Drago. I want that match that we didn't get.
Yeah. All right. I'll have to hop off real quick. I may be back. Say they're just getting back, so I'll probably have to go downstairs and continue recording in like 5 to 10 minutes. But overall, really liked it. Would be down with Creed 4, maybe even Creed 5 if they're going to do a movie with the daughter. Let's wait like 10 years because I would like to see Michael B. Jordan play, Creed in that movie too. See if he can look a little older. make it a little more believable. Give me a Drago movie. I felt like Rocky Balboa was a perfect end to the Rocky Balboa movies. So yeah.
All right, guys. So again, obviously, if you've watched a spoiler discussion but haven't seen the film, go watch it. It's an excellent film. But both of these movies we talked about tonight are excellent. Scream 6, I think, is a solid continuation of that franchise. I think if you love horror, I think if you enjoy that franchise, I think if you enjoy, because it is very much to an extent a mix of comedy and horror, but not in like the scary movie type of comedy horror. You'll definitely enjoy the movie, so go check it out. And Creed, again, I think it's an excellent film. I don't think you have to have seen any Rocky films to get into it, which I think is awesome. Like I've seen it twice. The second time I went, I took my brother, and I told him, like, if you probably don't need to see any of these to really enjoy the movie, because I think Chad's right. They do fill in the gaps that you need filled in. But Creed 1 and Creed 2, very coincidentally enough, were both put on HBO Max when this movie was released, so you can go check them out there. They're very easy to find now. And he watched both of those and then went in and watched it and loved it. And he didn't need any of the Rocky stuff to come with it, which I think is kind of what they wanted with this. It's now officially its own franchise. And I think they did a great job with it. And God help us all, because in interviews they kept using the term Creedverse, which means, oh Lord.
No.
We're going with John Wick. We're getting a Creedverse.
Cinematic universe, baby. No. So both these movies are excellent. Go check them out. So we do have a little bit of time left on the show, and obviously things like news discussion and spoiler discussions on films are going to be a regular part of this, but I wanted to implement other things to this. And so I've been trying to come up with, whether it's taking inspiration from other things or just trying to come up with my own ideas, come up with some games or different things that we can play just to sort of lighten up the end of a show. Because more too often the show ends on a really serious note, and then it's like, right, have a great night. So I've come up with one. It may help you guys if you want to have a whiteboard in front of you or something just to jot notes down on real quick. It'll probably help you. So what we're going to be doing is I don't have a fancy name for this because I don't get paid for this. So what you guys are going to be doing
that we can grab.
Yeah, everybody just had something to go to. It was great. So what you guys are going to be doing is using just a film drawer, like a random film generator. I've picked out, I have 8 total. We'll see how many we get through before we kill the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by giving you guys the genre that the film's in, just to sort of limit the areas that you're thinking of. And then I'm going to give you guys the cast list to the films. And it's going to start from least important / basically cameos all the way up to the lead character of the film or important characters that might be sort of a dead giveaway of who's in the movie. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I'm going to read out each of the 8 names. I'm going to give you guys a second to jot it down, think about it. When you guys feel ready to launch a guess, you can go ahead and launch it. Based on how many cast members it took you to get there is how many points. So if you got it in 1, that's 8 points, got it in 2, that's 7, so on and so forth. And whoever has the most points by the end wins. Matt said he may be back, so I am going to have him on there, but right now it is just the 3 of you guys. So are you guys ready to go?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. So the first film, the genre for the movie is going to be animation. Okay.
That's
so
the genre?
First,
okay.
Just voice acting.
Good.
All of the cast.
So the first actor is Stephen Root.
Mm-hmm.
And if immediately you're like, I have no guess, you can just say it.
No guess.
I know the actor. I just can't sing in the movie.
All right. Alan Tudyk.
That doesn't narrow anything down. He's in everything.
That's the point. It's going to
What
get
happens
better
if we guess
further
wrong?
down.
Do we lose points?
So if you guess, you can't guess again until everybody's tried, but you're not going to lose points.
Okay.
Just to keep it fun, so that some person can't launch a guess every single time.
Right.
If you guess and you get it wrong, you have to wait
Random.
until everyone's guessed, but we're not going to lose points. You just gain them.
Gotcha.
All right, so ready for the next one?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Tara Strong.
I have it.
I have a guess.
I have a guess too.
Okay.
You go first.
Stacy, you said it first, so go ahead and try.
Over the Hedge.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
Chris?
Wreck-It Ralph Break the Internet.
That's technically not the title of that film, but that's also not correct either way. So.
He wrecks it. He's Wreck-It Ralph.
All right. So, Chad, at this point, you're the only one who can launch a guess. Do you want to try, or do you want to wait for the next one?
I mean, I guess I'll go ahead and try. I don't have really anything to lose here. The only thing I was thinking of was Monsters versus Aliens.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to go on to the fourth name. Everybody's back in for a guess. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Your fourth actor is Cedric the Entertainer.
Oh,
So to recap for those at home who may want to guess this if you're watching later, the four actors are Stephen Root, Alan Tudyk, Tara Strong, and Cedric the Entertainer. All right. Moving on.
all right. Yeah, moving on.
All right. Your fifth actor, Chris Wedge.
Who?
Who?
Chris Wedge. What do you? Duh.
I mean,
When I give you
Entertainer,
away, I'll give you the context behind that. You either know it or you don't.
limiting my list right now with Cedric Entertainer. But
Okay. All right. Anyone want to guess on that, or are we going to move on to 6?
move on to 2.
Move on.
All right. Jack Black.
I'm trying to have a guess, but I can't. I don't know. Oh, never mind.
You want to try for it or no?
Well, I can guess the franchise, but I don't know which one.
It's
Kung Fu
Jack
Panda.
Black.
So is that your official guess? You're launching Kung Fu Panda?
Sure. I don't know which Kung Fu Panda, so I'll just say Kung Fu Panda, the first one.
Okay, that is incorrect.
I know it not Kung Fu Panda because Jack Black would be closer to top.
It goes least important to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he'd be the most important. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm lucky I'm awake. Okay.
Fair enough.
So I think
All right. So right now, Stacy is out till the other two launch a guess. Chad or Chris, do either of you have a guess, or do you want to move?
I want to launch a guess.
Go ahead.
Wait, I might be totally wrong. Onward.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah,
Chris,
not
right now
launching-
you're the only one still in it. Do you want to launch a guess to try and reset it, or do you want to move on?
move on.
Okay. So for Chad and Stacy, you guys can't guess until he does, but you can obviously take the note and be ready for when if he misses. Okay. So number 7 is Dennis Leary.
I have a guess.
Okay, go ahead.
Ice Age?
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
Number 8 would have been Ray Romano.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So for the you'll know it or you don't, Chris Wedge, who was the director of the first film, is the voice of Scrat in all 5 films.
Gotcha. Yeah, I never
Yeah,
would have gotten.
As soon as you said Jack Black and Dennis Leary, that right made the connection. I remember Jack Black was in the first Ice Age.
He is, yep. All right, so we're going to move on to the second one here. All right, that didn't take too long. These go to good rates. So we'll move on to the second one here. The genre that you guys are going to be looking for is action. All right. So your first actor is, and again, remember the order is basically going from supporting cameos through to leading actors or dead giveaways is how I've sort of ranked it. So your first actor is Hakeem K. Kazim.
Don't know that.
Can you spell the middle and last name?
Kae-Kazim.
Thanks.
His name
You
sounds
can't see
familiar.
your
but I
board to
can't.
check your spelling anyway, Chad.
Well, I just want
All
to
right,
look at
so
the
are we
name.
moving on?
Sorry. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Second actor, Stellan Skarsgård.
I have a guess, but I save it for next one.
All right, so we're moving on then.
Mhm.
Third actor, Naomi Harris.
Oh, let me hear it. Oh, this is tough.
So Stacy, looks like you're gonna wait. Chris, Chad, do either of you want to launch a guess on those three?
No.
Okay. Fourth actor, Bill Nye.
Oh! Which one?
So again, to recap, because we're at the halfway point, the four actors are Hakeem K. Kazim, Stellan Skarsgård, Naomi Harris, and Bill Nye.
Which one?
And that's Bill Nye, the Oscar-nominated actor, not the science
Not
guy.
the science guy.
Nice.
Oh, I'm between two right now, right? Which one?
All right. So do we want to launch a guess, or are we ready to move on?
I'm ready.
Ready to move on.
I had
Alright,
to get
Chris.
the next one to help.
Okay. Number 5, excuse me. I did it the first time too. Keira Knightley.
I have a guess.
I had to guess that.
Okay,
That
go
help
ahead.
which one?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Which one? Was this
Which
5?
one is she? The one with the jar of dirt. Which one is the one with the jar of dirt? Dead Man's Chest.
That is incorrect.
Can I
Oh,
guess?
I got it.
Oh.
Chad got it in first. Chad, go ahead.
Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
That is correct.
That why I had those
For
two went
what
down.
it's worth, the 3 remaining answers. So Chad, for that one, you'll pick up because you got it in 5. You'll pick up 4 points for that. The 3 remaining actors, which would have been the dead giveaways: Chow Yun Fat, Keith Richards, and Johnny Depp.
Keith Richards.
That
yeah.
what I was ready for what the two you mentioned before.
Because
Everything
those two
after
are-
2 is a blend for actually no, everything after 3 is just a blend together for me. So
All right. So we're going to move forward. So right now, Chad, because you got it earlier, does take the lead there. We'll move on to the third film. By the way, is this enjoyable for you guys, or is
Yeah.
this just added?
yes.
Yeah. It's
Really?
interesting.
Okay, cool. So moving on, we're going to move on. This one is going to come in the realm of comedies. Okay. So your first actor is Eddie Izzard.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyone want to try and launch a guess, or are we moving? All right. Second actor, Ellen Barkin.
You said Alan?
Ellen.
E-L-L-E-N,
Oh.
Barkin.
I obviously don't know who that is.
Older
Yeah,
blonde.
same, I know.
lady.
All right. Moving on.
Yep.
All right. Third actor, Bernie Mac.
Pretty. Oh.
All right. Anybody have a guess, or are we moving on?
I did a Benny Mac kid, but throwing me off.
Moving on is fine.
Okay. Fourth actor, Casey Affleck.
Oh! Got it.
Chris, you want to launch a guess?
Ocean 12.
That is incorrect. Stacy or Chad, either of you want to launch a guess, or do you want to wait for the next actor?
I'll launch a guess.
Sure. Go ahead.
Ocean's 13.
That is correct. Yes.
Hey.
Heyo. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
All right. So that is going to be for 5 points because you were at the fourth actor. The remainder of that list would have been Don Cheadle, Andy Garcia in 7th because he's only in one of the films, Al Pacino, and then George Clooney is the lead. All right. So we're moving on. The fourth film is going to be under the category of mystery thriller.
Oh, here you go, Stacy.
Except for I'm
All right.
half asleep. So
Fair enough. All right. Your first actor is Robert Duvall.
I had.
All right. Ready?
Mhm.
Second actor, Terry Garr. Want another one?
Yes, please.
Your third actor is Frederick Forrest. You going to 4?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cindy Williams.
I knew the first actor, and then the rest.
I know
Yeah,
Terry
I
Garr.
We're at the halfway point. To recap, it is Robert Duvall, Terry Garr, Frederick Forrest, and Cindy Williams. Are we going to go to 5?
Yes.
Okay. Your fifth actor, Harrison Ford.
Oh, God damn it. What is this movie called?
All right. So, Chris and Stacy, I imagine you guys are looking like you're ready to move on. Chad, you want to launch a guess or move on to the 6th one?
I'm kind of where Chad is at. I think I know what
I'm
it is.
trying to
and
remember
I
the
can't-
name of the movie.
I have 2 guesses, but
I'll wait. I got another one. I'm not going to win this game, obviously, so I might as well wait.
Yeah, I mean, go on to another one. I'm still thinking.
Okay. So, your 6th name, Alan Garfield.
That didn't help.
Well, actually,
Do we want to go for 7?
yes.
I'll throw in a guess real quick.
Sure.
The Conversation.
That is correct.
Ayo.
I don't
The final
even know
2
what that
actors
movie
would have
is.
been. What happened?
I said I haven't even heard of that movie.
The last 2 actors would have been John Cazale and Gene Hackman.
Okay. Yeah. I was like,
The Conversation
I was
is
trying.
I'm
sorry.
No, I was going to say, The Conversation is a Francis Ford Coppola film. It came out the same year as The Godfather 2, so it's the
Part
less
two, yep.
thought of the 2.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of The Fugitive, and then I was like,
I
no,
almost
wait, you
thought-
said Harrison Ford this early? It can't be that. Never mind.
Yes, I almost thought The Witness, but like, no, that not.
Yep. All right. So
Great film, by
with
the way.
that, Chad picks up another 3 points. You're on a roll here. We're going to move into the 4th one, which is going to be thrillers.
How many are left?
I did 8 total. So if you guys want to do all 8, there's 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, and this one, I will admit, because it's a cameo, I put them first. But if you know who this is, I'm sure you can get there relatively quickly. All right. So the first actor is Peter Benchley.
That name
Okay.
sounds familiar.
Second actor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Jeffrey Kramer.
I think I know who Peter Benchley
Yeah,
is.
both names sound familiar.
Or I'm
but-
mixing them up.
All right. Does anyone want to launch a guess, or are we moving on?
Moving on.
Okay. Third actor, Carl Gottlieb. Spelled Gottlieb, if anyone cares.
I'll guess. Why not? Is
Go
it
ahead.
Jaws?
That is correct.
Oh,
Peter Benchley's the writer of Jaws. I knew I should have guessed it off the first one.
Good
I
job.
almost
Wow,
guessed it off
Stacey.
of Peter Benchley alone.
horror
Yes,
thriller.
yes. That's why I said if you know who he is, you should
Yeah.
get there. Yes,
But
Peter
then I was
Benchley is
like,
the
I'm
author
so
of Jaws.
tired. Am I mixing him up with a different Benchley? That was my concern.
For what it's worth, Jaws has so few cast members. To read off the remaining ones, 5 would have been Murray Hamilton, and then it's Lorraine Gary, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, and Roy Scheider.
I might have thought about it with Murray Hamilton because he's the
Same.
he's the mayor guy.
Mm-hmm. All right, so right now it is 12-6-2. We're going to move on to the 6th one, and this is going to come in the category of musical comedies.
Finally. Sorry.
Oh shit! I forgot Chris was here.
All right, here we go. So, starting with your first actor, Charlotte Rampling.
Nope.
Okay. Second actor, I'm assuming?
Mm-hmm.
Lionel Blair. All right. Third actor,
Mhm.
Richard Vernon.
What was the last name? Vernon with a V?
Vernon, Vernon. Any guesses?
No.
All right. Fourth actor, Norman Rossington, spelled Rossington. And if anyone's confused, you can thank the film generator for giving me this beauty. It'll be fairly obvious in just a moment.
I
Okay.
think in musicals
All right,
that are
so-
comedies.
Charlotte, so the first four, Charlotte Rampling, Lionel Blair, Richard Vernon, Norman Rossington. Any guesses? Okay.
No.
Fifth actor, Wilfred Bramble.
Musical?
Musical comedy. Any guesses? Are we ready for six?
Yeah.
All right. Number 6, George Harrison.
I'll go. Is it A Hard
Go
Day's
ahead.
Night?
That's correct.
Cool.
So George Harrison, I put 6th because his name stands out as possibly an actor amongst the rest. 7 would have been Ringo Starr. 8, Paul McCartney. And I left out Lennon just because I didn't want to list all 4 of them.
As soon as you said it, I was like,
Hard
well,
Day's
he's a
Night.
Beatle. I was like, this is old. He's a Beatle. What is?
It was either that or
Alright.
Yellow Submarine or something like that. Yeah.
All right. So that was for another 3 points to Chad. So at this point, if somebody can nail it on the first go, you'll have a chance at catching up, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
I
All
should have done Peter Benchley right away.
All right. So Matt's back. All right, Matt. So Matt's already done this before because he demo tested it with me, but we're playing
Yes.
the game. So the way that this works, we have 2 more left, and then the show's over. So you can hop in for these 2. I'm gonna give you guys the genre, and then I have 8 actors listed, the same as we did before, in order from essentially cameos up to the leading actor as the final build. All right.
Alrighty.
Okay, here we go. So this one is going to be from drama, and similar as I did to Jaws, the person I put first is a cameo, but if you know who this person is, it'll help you connect to the movie very quickly, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so your first actor for
What was the
drama,
genre again? Drama.
Drama.
It is a drama, yes. All right. Your first actor is Obi Trice.
Oh, let me
Get
launch a
Richard Die
guess.
Trying. Sorry,
All right. Was that Stacey?
that was my guess. Get Richard Die Trying.
That is incorrect.
Let me launch a guess. Is it 8
ahead,
Mile?
Chad. That is correct, yes.
Which one?
8 Mile.
I know
After I said
Eminem
it.
says Obi
Yeah.
Trice.
No,
a
Obi
lot,
Trice
so-
is like one of his. Yeah. As soon as I
Yes.
said that, I was like, "What the fuck am I
'Cause
talking
you went
about?"
with the
It's
50
Cent.
Cent one. Yeah.
Yes,
50
I
Cent
know.
one, yeah.
I have
Which,
8
for
Mile sitting
anyone
over
who's-
there.
For anyone who's curious, the remainder of the actors would have been Brandon T. Jackson, Michael Shannon, Anthony Mackie, Brittany Murphy, Kim Basinger, Mekhi Phifer, and Eminem.
Guy Pfeiffer, yeah.
Someday I
All
wanna
right,
play
which
this
means
like
we
2 in the
have
afternoon.
we have 1 more left on the board. And this one, to help narrow it down for you, I went with Oscar-winning drama,
Okay.
just to help in
Well,
your head.
8 Mile, also an Oscar-winning drama.
It's
Well, this
very
one
true.
won major awards.
Oscar-winning drama. I think I missed the drama part.
Yes.
Suicide Squad.
I can't believe I just did that. I can't believe
That's
I didn't.
true.
I can't
Well, is it
believe
a
I
drop
just.
For
of
what
the-
it's worth,
Yeah.
50 Cent rolls in the same crew, so you weren't far
Yeah,
off.
but you don't understand
yeah.
how big of an Eminem fan I was, and I saw 8 Mile opening night, and I've seen it. Like I knew Opie Trice and Eminem. Like,
Sorry.
no, it's not your fault that I don't know. What the
All
hell I
right,
was thinking.
so we'll jump into this. And we started with this actor at the beginning of this game, so I thought it'd be fun to put the movie at the ending. Stephen Root,
Say the name
because he
again.
was the first. He was the
Oh,
first
I
name
want to
on the
launch a
first.
guess. Wait,
You want to
no.
launch a guess off Stephen Root? Go ahead. Do my
Yes.
guess.
Well, I mean, I'm in the lead, so I'll let these guys go. I'm actually thinking that you probably would have said horror, but Get Out.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
So
So
at this
Stephen
point, Chad
Yoon.
is out till everybody else launches a guess.
Stephen Yoon is what you said.
That's David Root.
Stephen Root.
Oh, Root. Okay, that changes what I was gonna say. Because I was gonna say Minari, but it's not Minari. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you don't have to guess. There's 8 names.
Well, I was going to guess that, but I heard
Okay.
the name wrong.
All right, so Stephen Root. So Matt, Chris, Stacy, ready for the next name?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm ready
Yes.
for the next one.
All right. Second actor, Phil Leeds.
Really?
Are we ready for the third actor?
Yeah.
All right. Third actor, Gail Boggs. All right. Ready for number 4?
Mhm.
Rick Aviles. And to read back the 4 names, since we're at the halfway point, they are Stephen Root, Phil Leeds, Gail Boggs, and Rick Aviles. All right. Do either of you 3 have a guess? Or are we ready for number 5?
No guess.
Okay.
Okay. Number 5, Tony Goldwyn.
I have a guess.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Ghost.
That is correct. Yes.
Oh,
For,
Stephen Root's in Ghost.
Yep, he's a cameo. So
Nice.
for 4 points to Chris there. That means Matt hopped in at the end there, but he does have 0 points. Stacy and Chris
That's
both
nice.
come away with 6. Matt will get a total of. Chad has a grand total of
Whoa.
23 points.
There's a
I
fight
am
going
kicking.
on.
I am
The
kicking
final,
myself up.
the other names, Demi Moore, Patrick Swayze, and then because I said Oscar winning, Whoopi Goldberg going last because she won the Oscar for the film.
Okay.
So that is it. All right. So I hope you guys had fun playing. I hope people at home who are watching this far had fun watching. I appreciate it. I want to do more things like that. So it looks like it went over well. So we'll definitely do this again in the future. Thank you to those of you who tuned in. Once again, as always, check out the films that we discussed tonight because they're excellent movies. Go give them the love they deserve. Check out all the latest matches in the movie Battleground. We just had the drunk match go up yesterday between Jay, Henry, and Alejandro, and that brings all the chaos that title promises, a drunk match with Henry, Jay, and Alejandro. So go check that out. We also have the title match, which we'll be uploading tomorrow. I was supposed to go up yesterday, but some personal issues on my end led to it being uploaded a little late. Just the edit got done a little late. Every once in a while, you need some time off. It is what it is. But I appreciate you guys' patience with that. It is like the last match going to be going up in 2 parts because, and I'll say this before we even go into the match, this is the longest title match we've ever had. It goes right down to the final question of the title match. So if you want to see a real back and forth fight between 2 top dogs in Amaru trying to defend and Jay trying to take the title from him, tune in, check that out. Both parts will go up tomorrow night, one right after the other, so there won't be a wait between them. And aside from that, thank you guys for watching. Thank you to my panelists for being here. I appreciate having all of you guys on, and I look forward to having you on in the future. And until next time, guys, once again, thank you. Take care.